Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Environment Services Committee held today on Wednesday, the 13th of December. The meeting has started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome.
Don't have to say it much, isn't it?
Sure, Councillor Brooks. Welcome all to the Services Committee here, our last one of this calendar year. So,
Planning
welcome. Just a couple of notes I've been given. First and most important is just to remind all members that we are now in Purda due to the election that's due to take place in January. So I will be taking advice from the Assistant Town Clerk where we believe that Purda may be going into effect. So I will be taking a site control on that this evening. We do have a very interesting agenda. So as always, I am going to ask members to try and only speak once if possible. And if someone has made the points that you've already made, it's just obviously move on. A couple of members, councillors here this evening have indicated they wish to speak on items. I'm going to bring you in on those items on the agenda as they appear. And I've yet to receive any public questions, but we will move on with the agenda onto item 2. Apologies for absence, please. And welcome back, Nikki.
Apologies of councillors involved in keeping substituting the council.
Very much. Is there any other apologies? I have a proposer to accept the apology and substitution, please. Councillor Tewkesbury, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to item 3, declarations of interest. Have we been pre-notified of any declarations in the office? No declarations have been received. Should anything arise during the meeting, our members can make a declaration at that point. Item 4 on the agenda this evening is minutes from the last meeting. Do I have any comments on accuracy of those, or do I have a proposer to accept as is?
I propose to accept them, say aye.
Councillor Harris to propose, seconder Councillor Bell. All those in favour of accepting the minutes? Any against? Or any abstentions? One abstention. On those minutes. Very much. Moving on to item 5. Haven't been pre-notified of any questions. Those in attendance wish to speak. And I'm not going to take any ones that haven't been submitted this evening due to the further restrictions. Moving on to item 6, public questions. Is there any member of the public that wishes to speak or make any points to this item? No. So that moves us on to our first substantive item on the agenda this evening, which is the lighting of the Jubilee Clock. And I'm going to ask the Assistant Town Clerk to introduce.
Thanks, Chair. As members may recall, previously in previous years, we have lit the Jubilee Clock. It's generally for 3 days, once a month throughout the year. Previously, we have had a subgroup that have selected those charities to illuminate the clock and their own particular colours. This year, we're asking for the Environment and Services Committee to approve the appointment of the Mayor to select the charities nominated for the illumination of the Jubilee Clock. If the Mayor is selected, we will go live with applications in January and then sit down with the Mayor at the end of that period to decide on the chosen charities.
very much. Are there any questions or comments on that item?
Move the recommendation.
Councillor James, you're proposing the recommendation and as written.
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Brooks. Would anyone like to make any comments on that proposal? No. Those in favour, please show of hands. Thank you very much. Another exciting job for you there, young man.
I spend time.
Moving on to item 8 on the agenda this evening is the fairgrounds terms and conditions. Once again, I'm going to ask the assistant town clerk to introduce this item.
As most of you will recall, at the last Environment and Services Committee, it was agreed to place the fairgrounds next year at the Jubilee Clock and the Pavilion Forecourt on selected dates next year. But as part of the recommendation, it was asked for officers, Councillor Taylor and Councillor Furman as well, as part of the working group, to go away, have a one meeting conversation and then consult with stakeholders on the proposed terms and conditions. So as part of that, we went to stakeholders, and that included the Hotel Association, other operators, and the Pavilion as well. So we consulted with a wide group of people. We've also sought advice from the Dorset Council Safety Advisory Group. So any event that takes place, like any large event, any events that generally take place in Dorset, Dorset Safety Advisory Group have an input into. So when we were looking at reviewing the terms and conditions, things that we were considering were the topics that were brought up during the previous meeting. So we did speak to the Dorset Safety Advisory Group about their thoughts on having marshals or security. They actually said that we didn't necessarily have to enforce having SIA security staff on site because of the numbers involved. We previously said that that should be on site as part of the previous terms and conditions. So rather than go with their advice, increasing that effectively, but suggesting that we keep the old terms and conditions and have SIA staff on site. You may recall there's quite a lot of conversations at the last committee about toilets and toilet facilities being on the forecourt. This is something we looked at, and again, taking into consideration what was said by operators and the Pavilion, we've looked at this, and actually, for improved toilet facilities to come onto the forecourt, would be up to an additional cost of like £450 additionally, which actually, if you're hiring the forecourt for a period of say 3-4 weeks, is soon going to mount up, which we felt isn't necessarily, I don't feel is necessarily fair on the operator, and it isn't necessarily logistically viable. So again, that term has stayed the same within the terms and conditions. I believe Councillor Dickinson previously suggested that we put the fund fares earlier, and that is within terms and conditions that we've updated. Within Appendix B, I think it is, it shows you the track changes of terms and conditions, what they previously were, and what the new proposed ones are.
Thank you very much, Assistant Town Clerk. I will make a point of this point of the meeting and declare a non-pecuniary interest. I do know operators that do hire the fairground forecourt. So that is a non-pecuniary interest, which won't stop me taking part in the debate or voting. Going to move on now, I am aware we do have a few members of the public here this evening that have been involved in these discussions. I'm going to give one last opportunity just to check that none of you wants to speak at this point on the agenda before inviting councillors that aren't present on the committee to come forward with their points. So it's just one last opportunity.
No, I'm observing tonight and then I'll do my actions after.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So before we go into the committee debate, Councillor Wakeling wanted to make a point on this item on the agenda.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, I've read through this and I'm concerned we're going to make the whole thing unviable. There's only so far we can go with these conditions, and we are in danger of losing the amenity of the fair. And I think that's one thing we have said previously. It does offer value, particularly to young people in this town who don't have much else to do in the evenings. I didn't speak last time, but last summer I went there virtually every day with the dog, sit on the bench, I just watched for 20 minutes. And it wasn't busy, if I'm honest. I did not go on the event nights at the end of the evening because there's fireworks, so I had the dog. But I went every other day. I didn't see a lot of grief. It wasn't that busy. And I do worry if we put too much burden on these operators, they're just going to say Weymouth's not worth it anymore. And that would be a loss to our town. So my point to you members is please consider, I don't think, from my experience last year, and I was there a lot, hours a week, the existing conditions were quite fine last summer. I cannot talk about those event nights. They were the only time I was not there at late in the evening. So maybe they are different, but the other times I was there early evening, straight after work, middle evening, right at the end of the night when they're closing up. I was there quite a lot. Yeah. Just sitting there silently observing, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wakeley. Before we go into debate, members, I'm just going to remind you that we are here to discuss and vote purely on the conditions, that is Appendix B, before your papers tonight. We're not here to talk about dates or anything like that. That has already been agreed by the committee. Going to open up to the floor now. Do I have anyone that wishes to make comment on these terms of reference, terms and conditions? Councillor James.
It's on a couple of questions, please, Chair. It said on one of the paragraphs about the toilets not being used, pavilion public toilets, the girls think that they were used too often, and obviously it's been discussed about the cost to the fairground providers of providing their own. But I understand we will still have portaloos, or we still can have portaloos, because knowing that some of the damage that was caused to the pavilion, I'd be very loath to just expect that anyone going to the fair would just think it's okay to nip into the pavilion at any given time, especially when it's really busy. Who's going to keep an eye on that for the pavilion, or is he going to have to hire his own security again? And also the conditions, although they seem reasonable looking at them on here, who is going to monitor those conditions for us? It's all very well having conditions, but if they are broken and they need reporting, who are they reporting to of an evening, and who's going to monitor them for us, please?
Thank you very much, Councillor James. Assistant Town Clerk, can you respond to these points, please?
Thank you, Councillor James. So, as part of the terms and conditions, operator would still need to provide a portaloo. So a basic portaloo, not an improved bigger facility. And it's my understanding that within the budgets for this year, we also still have budget for temporary toilets opposite Alexandra Gardens like we have done in previous years. With regards to the terms and conditions and enforcement, I totally understand where you're coming from, and it's something that as a council we're looking to improve going forward. We're in the process of introducing an out of hours duty officer protocol, which we haven't had before. So there'll be a manager on duty throughout every day of the year, trialing it over the Christmas period, and also as you may have seen recently on social media and on our website, we're currently recruiting a contracts officer, and primarily that is what they're there to do, is to enforce and ensure that all our leases and licenses are adhered to.
So thank you for that. I mean, so we can be assured that if an incident takes place or that some of these conditions are not met or they're gone against, that this duty officer will be able to follow that up there and then and deal with it.
As per the terms and conditions within Appendix B, there are different things that can happen if they break those clauses. So again, it may be that they're followed up the following day, but there's certainly somebody at the end of the phone to deal with things that need dealing with immediately if needs be, like to go out to site if they're still operating and so forth, to shut them down.
Okay, and we will review that, I take it, in the future after the unfair. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor James. I just mentioned to the Assistant Town Clerk a reminder that we actually did issue a breach of licence last year to one of the operators. So the council is already monitoring. So we can do that, and of course we do rely on partners in those areas to inform us as well, because we can only react on information given at that time so that we can enforce. Councillor Dickinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. 2B, it says you are only permitted to set up equipment from 6 PM at night. surely they could be setting up during the day rather than late at night. They might go on, I don't know how many hours it takes to set up. And also, it says the equipment is to be removed from the site no later than 0900. Again, surely you don't want them starting until 0900.
This is a clause that's always been there, and it's all to do with charging for car parks as well. So if we had to car park the whole, and they from like midday on that their setup, obviously there's going to be additional costs associated with that. So it's all to do with setup and breakdown, and there's also times and clauses within there where they're not allowed to do it before or after certain times.
It coincides with free car parking
Yeah.
period.
But I mean, what about the residents and the people that live there?
So as per clause 2C, they would be permitted to operate after 10 o'clock or before 8 AM.
Well, it just seems strange to me that surely you want them setting up during the day, not at night. Well, that's the way
Again,
I
it's
look at it.
about making it, things like council waiting, making it financially viable. Otherwise, that's a complete whole full day of additional cost at the start and end of that period.
Very much. I've got anybody else that wishes to speak or any license? Councillor Rowan?
Thank you, Chair. I can listen to Councillor Richard's points, I can appreciate that. If I, as a ward councillor, my other concern is the local hoteliers and guest houses. You have equally strong points. So with all these rules, we're trying to achieve a balance which probably doesn't satisfy either party entirely, but at least a workable compromise. I think by having the rules, which are reasonably clear, it does give some sort of scope for the officers to be able to manage the fund fares. I like the things about stipulating the volume, the amount of music, that's a big source of complaints, so that seems to be well handled. The common complaint for me and other ward councillors is some of the heights of the rides, and again, we've got a provision in the regulations to be able to stop high rides if they are an issue. So I accept they're not perfect, but I think they're workable, and if we can try them out, if it proves that they are too onerous, you won't get any bookings. And if we go out for contract early in the season, we've got time to recover. So I think they're reasonable. We'll probably give them a try.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rowan. Is there anything else? Anything else is indicating to speak at this point? I'm going to ask, do we have a proposer then? So, or anyone wishes to make a recommendation? Councillor Taylor?
Can I propose? Can I propose the recommendation as on the paper, please? That they accept these.
Councillor Berman, would you lead again to second that? Yeah. So we have a proposer and a seconder for the recommendation as printed in our papers this evening. Although, would anyone like to make any final comments on that proposal? We'll move to the vote. Those in favour, then please show of hands. Those against? Or any abstentions? That is carried. Thank you very much, members. Moving on to item 9 this evening, which is the seafront lighting, and I'm going to ask our property manager, Shane, to introduce this item. Come on forward, Shane.
Chair, in July 2023, a report was presented to the Environmental and Services Committee to ask members to support for the development and options of seafront lighting, leading to a formation of a working group consisting of 4 members. This report seeks committee support and further discussion on the working group and officers' recommendations as set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shane. As before, we're going to bring in the members of council that aren't on the committee. I'm going to start with the order of Councillor Watley as the ward member. Would you like to come forward first of all? or one of the board members, I should say.
Basically, the working group looked at various options. The lighting does need to be sorted out one way or another. If we leave it for too long, we're gonna have even more cost of replacing various lighting and fixtures. The ones on the flower beds, wirings needs attention. Been there to my knowledge for quite some time. And so Shane has done a good job of finding out what needs to be done. And then if we can deal with that first and then go on to further bits and pieces, which will enhance the seafront.
Thank you very much, councillor Watley. Councillor Gray.
Sorry, Chair. Yes. No, not on the stage, sorry. Thank you.
I have you down as sort of seafront.
Yeah, I'll wait for the numbers to go out.
I'm not gonna bring you in on the debate, so if you wanna make a point, if you can.
No.
No. Councillor Wakeling?
Just very briefly, I wasn't sure from the report which budget these items got. I like some of the ideas, but I'm just keen to know where the money's going to come from for some of these. Particularly, I'd be worried if it was to come out of the seafront master plan budget, because some of these options would eat up almost half of that for lighting. And I have personally, I'd like to think we could aspire for more out of the seafront master plan than just lighting. That's really my question: is which budget line are we hoping to bring these out of?
Shane, do you have a response to that?
At the moment, we're looking, Ian, financial officer, helping me look at what we get there. We're going to have a report to finance governments regarding the actual asset plan where we get the money from going forward.
Okay, so really at this stage, it's to agree the principle and then a plan will be developed to go to finance and governments for funding.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Weather.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and my apologies for not giving you prior notice. I was one of the councillors on the working group. Really like to commend this report to you. Shane has spent a huge amount of time on it, as did we. And the reason I commend it is this is the first time for a long time where I've seen a plan where a true investigation of the situation as it stands now and how it is likely to stand in the coming years with a proper priority list. So although it looks very daunting almost on paper like that, there's no suggestion that it should all be done like that. This is a priority list and a cohesive priority list, so that what we do this year links into what we might do next year and what we might do the year in the future. And the really ambitious stuff is not required until and I say this trying not to be scathing, the artist impression of lights. When they are no longer feasible, we will have in mind already what will replace them. I probably won't be on this council at that time, but those of you who are, I would heartily recommend that you have an electrician's view on what the light should be, rather than an artist's impression of lighting, because they are quite different things. But I do recommend you look at this very carefully. In principle, if you're not being asked to improve the entire budget in one go, you are being asked to approve that each of these elements require replacing. Not to do so will actually cost us more money ultimately than not doing it now. Thank you very much, and thank you for your indulgence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. Going to move forward now, discussion, and first councillor indicating to speak is councillor Dickinson.
Thank you very much, Chair. I was involved with this with Ken, John and Kate. And I must say that the plan is, with what we looked at, is what needs doing now, what will need doing in 2 or 3 years' time. And we all agreed, we can't just leave it to the next council, this has got to be put in place now. Otherwise it will cost more money later on. The uplighters on the bus shelters, you can't get the parts anymore, they fill with water. So we would like to change those to downlighters, which are far cheaper and easier to repair. The stuff in the raised beds, those, I think the electrician said they've got to be done. So I would recommend this plan, which is what it is a plan, and it is a 10-year plan,
Yeah.
10-year plan. And money can be allocated each year from a budget, so we're planning it properly. And we're not gonna just get hit with a big butt bill like we did with the fire doors. And I would recommend this to my colleagues.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dickinson. Anybody else wish to speak on this point? Councillor Tewkesbury?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to stick out to me, and it's been brought up numerous times, is the speakers on the seafront.
Yeah, you said the town clerk might make a comment, but we are